Hey, so I have just signed up to a course called Neurodivergence Rising. And I found a creator, Kristen Kaiser, a PhD, that really finally started to land some home truths about awareness and how, in kind of psychological terms, we're framing certain types of people as neurodivergent. And I really resonate with this. Now, autism, ADHD, neurodivergency from a kind of patriarchal framework is possibly deemed as like a disability or something that's kind of wrong with us because we don't fit into the structures, the structures of our culture and society. And yet more and more of us are awakening to the distortion, dysfunction, corruption, criminality of these systems, and the inherent falseness or the inherent um just the corruption of it, capitalism and just being consumers and just kind of being dissociated from our emotional body to be able to fit in, to be a slave to a 9 to 5 work paradigm, or a slave to shift work, or just having to be a slave to survive on this planet, to live, to eat, right? And how there was a time in our not too distant, probably history or distant history, where we lived in accordance to the earth's natural rhythms and cycles, that we lived in harmony with the planet, that we lived in community where we shared the resources of our environment with the community. And how over the millennia there's just been this kind of colonialist framework of raping, pillaging, stealing, and extracting the resources to then hoard the resources over the people. So I'm speaking obviously very generally, and yet I'm endeavoring to point it to the seeming chaos and destruction and doom and gloom and apocalyptic type of extremism with government takeovers and the rise of fascism and authoritarianism, and how we're seeing now the entanglement of powerful global leadership in this kind of desire to create a kind of hegemony, or kind of like, this is how humans need to operate on this planet or else. And then more and more people kind of seeing through the facade and being able to pick up on the micro expressions that sort of make the masks slip. So we're dealing with kind of sociopathic, psychopathic people that are not empathetic, people that are not able to empathize with enslavement, poverty, etc. And yet, these sorts of leaders being psychopathic or malignant narcissists or whatever, that distortion is becoming more clear. And I think if you resonate with a kind of neurodivergency, things will start to land for you when you really honor your own being, when you honor your intuition, when you honor the kind of nervous system biofeedback loop of what we're dealing with on a global, societal, and personal level, to sort of activate our divinity and activate our divine intelligence, which is really just the physical body's intelligence of how we relate here. And I think part of the importance of talking about it is that as neurodivergent people, we've often been shamed, blamed, attacked, expelled, and kind of shunned from community, shunned from um, supposed nice communities or like spiritual communities, and yet there's still this sort of discord. And the discord really is laced in the patriarchal program. It's laced in classist uh, and hierarchical economic standing, where people of a certain economic standing from generational wealth are able to kind of grab hold of certain spiritual ideas and make it nice and make it kind of fit into a capitalist agenda, versus the spiritual work that endeavors to stand in truth, to dissolve corruption, to dissolve oppression, to dissolve and transform corrupted leadership. So deeper heart-centered spiritual work is endeavoring to change the entire system, to awaken people to their spiritual autonomy so that they don't need to engage as much with those social orders, which are inherently dissociating us from our body, right? And then, depending on where you live, seeing more government trying to control people's bodies, trying to own people's bodies, which is really just that overreach to show us that the entire system is set up to own us, for us to just fit in, for us to just conform, for us to just, work hard and make the money. And yet it's becoming more and more apparent that there's a kind of usurpness where governments are taking people's hard-earned tax money and funneling it into global warfare, which then displaces and murders and enslaves people in different parts of the world for our global powerhouses to then take those resources and for their own personal gain, with just these people kind of running the show with their billions and all their kind of mates that are dictating this global overreach, where we the people really have to have the power, strength, and courage, in whatever, whether you're called to protest. But I always come back to, like, we can protest in our own hearts by the way we show up in our lives. We can protest by boycotting. We can protest by speaking out about certain things. And straight up, we can protest in our own personal lives by walking away from those structures that appear in our communities. And part of the reason I often I remember doing Eckhart Tolle's courses, but part of the internet and the beauty of the internet is being able to connect with people on a global level who are doing the type of work that resonates with your heart and your soul. And so for me, learning more from indigenous people, from doctorates, from people who are well studied, who are doing clinical work with people, who are studying it with the people who have the kind of remembrance, right, through their lineage of the natural biological order of things, versus this weird matrix capitalist extraction model where only a few people get to benefit. And I'm kind of thinking, well, how is it even a benefit if you can just hoard loads of materiality while you murder people, while you're destroying nations, while you're, like, that can't be a very nice way to live. As much as it would appear like they have all the pretty things and they own all the properties or what have you, often if you were to really be in the presence of the people, it would just be miserable, right? It would be these people are very sad, miserable people deep down, right? Hola, my lovers. I think farts are hilarious. Like, I'm somebody who just laughs hysterically at farts in general. Like, my dad used to, like, when we were very little, my dad used to have a poo and then find my sister and I and, like, lock us in the bathroom. And he would do the classic, like, pull my finger. And I still just am like a small child when I hear a fart, when I fart. I just think it's hilarious. I just, I think about like the Queen of England or whatever having a fart. I just, sometimes one, it's funny, two, it's dangerous. And like, if we can't laugh at ourselves, we're missing the fucking point. And but I've been there too. I've been in the deep grief and the deep despair. And I also think there's something about grief and like grieving the life that we were sold that we're never going to have, grieving the person we thought we were, that via shadow work or via life experience, that identity that we sought to kind of grab hold of just falls away in the light of our awareness, right? Through spiritual truth. No one cares, bruh. Well, I care. you know a shout out to Drive Baby Drive. Holla holla. Thanks. This is actually a very this was gifted to me, this mug. And it's actually like worth, apparently, allegedly, it's worth like a lot of money because it's made by this artist that's like renowned. So I don't think you did, but Hala Lorna. So I connect it to this course, Neurodivergence Rising, and the current geopolitical landscape of things that we're all dealing with, and how we want to be able to embrace our uniqueness and embrace our